And then I actually saw a picture of Rihanna getting off a plane on the New York coast, and she looked beautiful. And I was like, my God, that is amazing, because I look nothing like that. That is what AI and machine learning forecasting does. You look like Rihanna, right? That is what AI and machine learning forecasting can do for you. We have a couple of clients in here, and what we're helping people do is understand the environment better by bringing in as many external variables and internal variables as possible to make you understand what demand is and where things should be going to a store, if you have stores, or if you're in e-commerce, how wide and how deep my assortment is. So I'll actually go back 2 years, right? So 2 years ago, JOANN, which is an arts and fabric store, said it's an essential store, right? So while the world was locked down in March and April, and only grocery stores and pharmacies and stuff like that were able to open, Wade, who's the CEO of JOANN, said, I'm an essential store. And he refused to close any of his 800 stores across the US. We do the allocation for them. We were able to turn our models on so that we can actually not predict COVID, but help him predict demand using Google and Apple mobility data. So we saw where people were moving, and we're actually able to predict demand for JOANN, and they're on record saying this, as to where they should be sending items more to stores. Obviously, in retrospect, it makes sense, but something like Texas or Florida, versus send less to stores, something in New York or some other places that had more strict lockdowns. We could see it in our data, and we could then help them allocate better, as well as predict future demand better as well. That also flew into their e-commerce, because the opposite was also true. E-commerce demand was greater in New York and less in Texas, right? Overall demand remained elevated, but how it shifted between e-commerce and brick and mortar was different. And we're able to see that through their data, Apple and Google mobility data, all of it. So we really work with merchants, right? And within any merchandising organization, there's generally a buyer and then a planner and allocator. Buyers are looking at things 6 months, a year in advance. We help with the long range planning. We have what I call Plan Smart, which is MFP, which helps them understand exactly how much more or less we need of a certain product. Then we work with the planners and allocators once that decision is made, and it's more near term. How much do we allocate to each store? In the e-commerce world, that can be how much do we allocate to our own channel versus any other wholesaler that we're going to sell into. I'll give another real life example right now. So right now, no state secret, right? I have a picture on my phone. I drove in. It was $7 a gallon at the local at the local gas station, and inflation hit 9%. Inflation's at 9%. It doesn't matter what kind of AI modeling we use or you use. It's really tough to understand how do I price in this environment. You actually have to go back to 1975, where most of us weren't born yet, to actually figure out like what happens in this type of pricing environment. So the thing that you can do is actually understand what is happening on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. If you're using Excel or something like that, it's really tough to understand what's happening, what are the movements, how are people shifting products, preferences, all of that. AI and machine learning models can pick that up faster, and then they can also project further ahead, right? So one of the things that we've been doing is actually tracking grocery prices at 30 different stores across the US. So we're able to understand where pricing is moving a little bit faster. So we've been ahead of the Fed on inflation and where it's going to be by a couple of weeks, right? We're not that much ahead, but by a couple of weeks, and we feed that into our models. The thing that happened for us in retail in 20 and 21 is the government threw a lot of money into consumers. The stimulus was great for retail. Consumers bought a lot. So all of our bad habits got hit, right? So we could actually price higher, promo less, and everything was fine. All of our bad habits are coming home to roost. We can't continue business as is. Whether it's our systems, which is the best, or somebody else's systems, which might be second or third best, you've got to switch. You've got to switch. You just cannot continue doing it as is. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? We all know that we need to change. And the biggest problem with change is we know we need to do it, but there's inertia. We're very used to doing things the way we do. We now need to change.